Hello, I'm Henry Keane. This is News Bulls at UATV. I know you've been waiting. Welcome to the show. Today in the episode, Russian assault under cover of fog just collapses record losses of Putin's army in just one day. So-called peace talks are on hold. Putin protracts the war in Ukraine while Trump focuses on the war in Iran. Zelensky strengthens defense cooperation with Europe as Trump is angry on allies for not helping him in the Middle East. Sharp change in weather, along with the planned start of the spring-summer campaign, pushed Russian troops to increase attack. In Dobropillia, Pokrovsk and Huliaipole directions, Russian troops attempted to carry out assaults under the cover of the heavy, foggy conditions, but failed heavily. These actions resulted in massive losses for the enemy, according to the commander of the unmanned system forces, Robert Magyar Brody. Only Ukrainian UAVs alone eliminated as much as 900 Russian soldiers during 36 hours.
900 in a day and a half is a new benchmark. The defenders on the ground were unmatched. The enemy failed to break through any sector along this stretch over that time. Robert Magyar Brody, the commander of the unmanned systems forces.
And the result of Russian spring-summer campaign on the front lines, incredible losses. Over 1,700 Russians eliminated in a single day of fighting, as per General Staff of Ukraine. This is a record even for the Putin's army, famous, or better said, infamous for its grinding meat wave assault. And the very next day, Russian army loses approximately more 1,500 in dead and wounded. Russia has lost nearly 100,000 soldiers on the front line over the past 3 months alone this year, confirms Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, with 90% of these casualties suffered by the Russian occupiers on the battlefield are caused by Ukrainian drones. And more about Ukrainian drones. Satellite images have emerged showing the Labinsk Junction oil depot in Krasnodar region of Russia after the attack on March 16th. The images confirm that 18 storage tanks were completely burnt out. Fire there raged on for several days, and after massive fires show losses mounted to approximately 36 cubic meters of petroleum products just burnt out. This will cost Russian war machine roughly $20 million. The Krasnodar region is a strategic hub for the Russian army. Oil depots in these regions serve as fuel pumping stations for Russian troops in Ukraine. They were doing their job well, and they also burn quite well, as you can see. Putin obviously uses war in the Middle East to protract war in Ukraine. And, of course, as soon as the Kremlin saw that Trump had become more focused on Iran, it immediately announced a pause in the negotiation and peace talks. Experts emphasize that the Kremlin does not demonstrate a willingness to deviate on its maximum conditions, even in the framework of negotiations involving the United States and Ukraine. This indicates that Moscow, as before, is betting on achieving strategic goals by force rather than on compromise, and actually the Kremlin confirms that quite openly.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov continues to reject any negotiated settlement that fails to concede to all of Russia's demands, even if it concedes to Russia's territorial demands. Lavrov insisted that the current democratically elected Ukrainian government is a root cause of the war and referred to potential post-war European peacekeeping troops that would deploy to Ukrainian-held territory as occupying forces, Institute for the Study of War.
And this is exactly like that. Comrade Lavrov turns European troops in Ukraine that are not even there yet to occupying force. And Russian troops that burn, rape and murder Ukrainians for 4 years in a row are, as per Lavrov's, forces of liberation. And these forces, according to Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Alexander Syrsky, are mounting as the Kremlin plans to recruit another 400,000 soldiers in 2026 and has already intensified operations on the front line.
In 2026, Russia plans to recruit another 409,000 soldiers. This means one thing: the enemy does not give up its intentions and continues to prepare for further aggression against Ukraine. With improving weather conditions, we see an increase in the enemy's activity on the front. Oleksandr Syrskyi, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Zelensky also said that he believes that Donald Trump wanted to end the war in Ukraine, but Zelensky adds that the US president and his advisors had chosen a strategy of so-called not to irritate Russian Tsar. According to media reports, Trump is losing interest in talks on a peaceful settlement of the war launched by Russia against Ukraine, as he's now focusing on Iran. And last week, Zelensky said Ukraine was ready for a new round of talks to end the war, but the meeting place and time have not yet been agreed upon due to different positions of the United States and Russia. Well, maybe the Iranian capital, Tehran, could be a nice place to meet and discuss how to end the war in Ukraine, as American blitzkrieg in Iran is over. And it is over. America has won, right?
It's a little unfair. You know, you win a war, but they have no right to be doing what they're doing.
Zelensky now is in his European tour to strengthen ties with allies. In London, Ukrainian President and Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer signed a landmark declaration establishing a de facto defence alliance, with the United Kingdom pledging £3 billion in annual military aid through 2031. Also during Zelensky's visit to Madrid, Spain announces €1 more billion military aid package for Ukraine. President is prioritizing visits to European nations that have recently come, so to say, under fire from Donald Trump. US President recently expressed extreme disappointment over UK's cautious stance regarding US military operations in the Middle East. And as for Spain, Trump threatened to sever all trade ties after Sanchez refused to allow US forces to use Spanish air bases for strikes against Iran. More in the following story.
This is the fourth visit by Volodymyr Zelensky to Spain since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The president of Ukraine began it with a meeting with the leadership of the Spanish group CNR, which concluded 3 cooperation agreements with Ukrainian arms manufacturers. Following talks between President Zelensky and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, the parties signed 5 agreements on cooperation in defense and finance, including joint development and production of integrated defense systems. Kyiv is ready to contribute its combat experience to joint projects, assured Volodymyr Zelensky.
Ukraine is ready to assist with its knowledge obtained during the war, especially regarding necessary drones and with our experience and capabilities. The Spanish defense industry can supply Ukraine with the necessary shells, radars, and equipment. The president of the government of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, said that this new alliance signed today here in Madrid with the Ukrainian defense industry is very important. These are cooperation agreements between the Ministry of Defense of Spain and also several Spanish companies that are interested in jointly co-producing different systems, for example, high-precision missiles, guidance systems, radar systems, and also drone systems, that is, drones. Ukraine has a great deal of military experience, unfortunately accumulated over the last 4 years, and Ukraine is ready to share this experience with the rest of the European countries.
Ukraine can count on Spain's support despite the escalation in the Middle East, assured Pedro Sanchez at a joint press conference with Volodymyr Zelensky. He announced the allocation of €1 billion to Ukraine in 2026. The majority of the funds will be directed toward joint weapons production, such as drones, missiles, and radar systems. The head of the Spanish government explained that in this way, the total financial support for Ukraine this year will increase to €4 billion.
Que nada ni nadie nos va a hacer olvidar.
Nothing and no one will make us forget what is happening in Ukraine, and that we will continue to support the Ukrainian people with the same intensity as we have done from day one. The Spanish government, together with the vast majority of Spanish society, is fully in favor of the European Union's enlargement to include Ukraine.
The leaders of the 2 states paid significant attention to strengthening Ukraine's air defense. After all, Russia strikes Ukrainian critical and civilian infrastructure daily, and in recent times has been using more ballistic missiles than before, noted President Zelensky.
Strengthening air defense, providing air defense systems with missiles, this is a necessity. It is constant work. Spain has significantly supported the protection of our skies. We also talked about the PURL program. This is a pan-European program. These are no alternative things for protecting our skies. These are Patriot missiles. We are actively working to have strong European production of anti-ballistic systems, and I am confident there will be results in this.
Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Spain on the eve of the European Council meeting. In Brussels, they plan to discuss further steps to provide Kiev with a €90 billion loan. This loan is still blocked by Hungary, as is the 20th sanctions package against Russia. Budapest demands that Kiev resume Russian fuel supplies via the Druzhba pipeline damaged by a Russian attack.
Almost everybody understands that this blockade is not fair at all. There's no alternative to the €90 billion. There can be alternative forms of financing, but there's simply no alternative in strengthening our army. That's why this issue needs to be solved.
Earlier, as part of his European tour, the president of Ukraine visited the United Kingdom. At Downing Street, he held talks with the head of the UK government, Keir Starmer. Before that, he visited Paris and met with President Emmanuel Macron. On 12th March in Romania, President Zelensky held talks with the country's President Nicusor Dan. One of the central topics was cooperation in the defense sector. Reported by Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.
Well, it seems to be it for today. I'm Henry Keane. Thank you so very much for your time and attention. Ukraine appreciates that. Please also consider leaving a comment and like, maybe a subscription even to our channel, so to stay tuned to what tomorrow holds for all of us. UATV will be there to keep you posted on that in Ukrainian perspective as usual. So stay safe and tuned for more with UATV. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.